Welcome back, guys, to the Big Gay Overalls podcast. My name's Lisa Kirkman, and I am, as always, your host. And it's great to be in your ears or in front of your eyeballs again. I am super grateful to be here. So it's been a bit over a week since I last did an episode. We went away at the end of last week, and then I kind of got just a bit distracted and busy with some family stuff. But I'm back this week with another episode. This week has also been super, super exciting because I released my big book, Burn the Script, which is now available on Amazon. There are links in the show notes. You can get paperback, you can get ebook. And if you don't like buying online, hit me up, let me know. If you're in Australia in particular, I'm going to have a stock of the paperbacks that I can get to you. So hit me up, send me a DM, send me a message, whatever, carrier pigeon, send me an email, and I can hook you up with that. But I am super grateful to everyone who's bought a copy of the book. I've had lots of good feedback on it already, and I'm just super excited to get it out there in the world and see it doing its thing. So Burn the Script, available everywhere, and yep, it's going to be, hopefully it's going to be exciting for everyone and people get something out of it. But today, on the back of my weekend trip away, Sharon and I went away for a weekend with her aunties. And these are, and I know I've spoken about this before, but these are amazing women who have, completely shifted my perception and, my belief about having love from family and being accepted and just loved unconditionally for who you are, which is a new experience for me. And we had the most fun time. Like, we just sat around and they talked and they shared stories, and they had a thing on Saturday night where we all had to do a little skit, which is like my worst nightmare. But it was fun. Like, they surprised us. We laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed all weekend. And it got me thinking, and I wrote a blog post on it, and I thought, I still want to talk about it some more, is about, particularly when we come out late in life, because we've got all this life experience and all these things, it's like we've got to learn to relationship. And I don't just mean romantic relationship, like that's a whole new learning anyway, but, relationship with ourselves, relationship with others, we kind of have to learn how to do it from, a different place. And now we're living more truthfully, and with unlearning all the BS that we were handed, we kind of, have to figure out, well, once we figure out who we are, it's like, how do I give love and how do I accept love? And, so I guess for a starting point, for a lot of us, when we do come out later in life, every relationship we've had before was built on some level of performance, whether we were straight performing or whether just even if it's family or whether it's, friends or work or professional, whatever. And we, by some level of performance, like, I think that we genuinely believe the feelings we have are valid, but we're still trying to do what everyone expects us to do to fit in and who we're supposed to be. And we don't know any different. We haven't questioned any further. So when we think we're in love with somebody, we are, and that's a genuine feeling. But we don't realize until we do go through this whole unpacking and this journey of coming out that it's actually, performance. It's performative. We're playing a part. We smiled through it. We did the job. We raised the kids. We held it all together. But the version of us doing that, like for me anyway, she was edited. She was curated for survival, and not even consciously. It was just, I don't fit, so I'm going to try and fit in and blend in, and I'll just do the things that everyone said, even though it didn't feel great. And then now that we've come through this identity shift and we've come out and we're building relationships as our true selves, and we start to realize some things, like we never actually learned how to be in a relationship to either give or receive. We really learned how to perform in one, like, here are the boxes you have to tick. It's a big difference from, realizing and learning how to be in a relationship versus performing and just ticking the boxes. And it's kind of conflicting. And I know I've talked about this before, but before we can build on something real and build on the new, I guess, we all go through this stage of weird grief for what wasn't. And I know it sounds dramatic, but stay with me. There's a point here, you know, because I know it seems weird to say that we grieve something that ultimately we never wanted once we figure that out. But even though the story wasn't ours to write and it wasn't our creation, we went along with it and continued the narrative in our own head about what our life might potentially look like. So we don't just grieve, the marriages or partnerships or friendships or other relationships that ended. What we're kind of grieving is the version of us that lived through those years and sometimes decades without being seen. And when I look back at myself, like I used to think, well, fuck that, I've made a lot of mistakes, or why didn't I know? Or why did I do something? But it's almost now looking back and giving myself grace. I often say to clients and to people that, we do the best we can with what we know. And that's true for a lot of situations. So there's no point giving myself a hard time when I didn't know any different. I didn't know anything else was possible. I didn't even know I wanted anything else till, much, much later in life. And then I didn't know it was okay to do it and pursue it. And we're kind of grieving that version of us that, tried so hard to fit in, but still never quite fit. It never felt like it seemed that it should. And I was keeping everyone else comfortable and was trying to make it all work, keep the balls in the air, keep juggling. And even when that weight was crushing the old version of me, like I just still kept going I've got to make it work. Like this is what life is supposed to be. And, I say this with love and grace and compassion for myself in that, I wasn't wrong in the life I was living and the decisions I made. I was just doing what I had to do. And that version of me got me here, got me to where I can be safe to be me and express who me is. And it's like, okay, that version of me gets to rest now and to be put to bed. I don't need to carry that story forward because that's not who I am and it's who I was. But that version of me is not going to take me towards where I want to be now, and where I want to be is very different to where I thought I, wanted to be. And it's an interesting space where you feel like I'm living the life of my dreams right now. I've got everything I could have ever wanted and didn't even know I wanted, but way richer and fuller and so good in so many ways. But then you kind of feel weird for like, well, why am I sad about what didn't eventuate or what didn't happen? But I don't think it's about necessarily grief for, oh, I wish that had happened, but it's about the journey and how hard it was. And I think that's how I started to reframe it rather than going, oh, well, I grieve the person I was. No, I grieve the opportunities that she missed, but I recognize how hard she worked just to keep everything together so I could get to this point. I don't know if that makes any sense. It kind of does in my brain, but yeah. And then when we talk about relationships, so you've got, queer love is not the same as straight love with two women. It blows my mind when people think just two women is the same. It's very different. It's not just straight love with different plumbing and parts and things. Like that's not what it is. It's a whole different experience. It's not about plug and play and dropping in the same scripts, but with new pronouns instead of he, she, it's she, or he. And what I've found on my journey is that, and there are so many of us from the stories I get told, that without even realizing it, we bring our old programming into our queer relationships, like who's the leader, who's the nurturer, who holds space, who initiates sex, who handles conflict. And in a heteronormative relationship, there are very clear rules, like, the woman is the nurturer and the man is the fixer upper and does things, and they're the leader, and it's you just are told these from birth. This is what happens. This is what good girls do. This is what good boys do. But the beauty of being free of that in a queer relationship is that you get to make it up, and that's terrifying and it's beautiful. And spoiler alert, if you're in any relationship, straight, queer, whatever, you still get to make it up. It doesn't matter. But when you're in the heteronormative world, like, all these things are so defined, which is what I talk about in Burn the Script, is like there's all these rules and definitions and structures that are put in place, and no one really thinks on it hard enough to think that they didn't make the rules, so therefore they can change the rules. We're not aware that we can change the rules. And it's terrifying and it's beautiful and it's amazing, because there's no blueprint. There's no, well, this is what it should look like. So there's no right way, which means there's no wrong way. The only way that matters is what works for you and your significant other, or whoever it is you're in a relationship with, friendship, business, family, whatever. As long as it works for everyone, then that's the right way for you. And we keep putting these arbitrary sort of lines around things because as humans, we like boundaries and structure. But the reality of it is, it can be whatever you want it to look like. It can be anything. And, I always talk about my good friends, Tony and Carol, who've both passed now, but, they were together before, it was really socially okay, I guess, and for many, 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 many years. And I remember once she said, we essentially lead a straight life. Like, they have their house, they have their jobs, they have their roles, they go and do their thing, they come back. The only difference is it's two women doing that, not a man and a woman. And even that definition is like, we lead a straight life. But it's, there is no straight life, queer life, in between life. Like, it's life as you define it on your terms. But most of us are too scared to do that because we're like, well, I don't know what that looks like. And can I do that? Like, will people judge me? And this applies to any relationship. Like I said, family, work, friendships, any relationship, you can define the terms that make it successful for you and the other person involved. Like, it can be that simple. What works for you? And it's not about having labels or jobs or roles or anything. It's just, how do we connect as humans, regardless of anything else? And one of the things I found hard is, as a real conflicting thing, is that, even though I was finally ready to start living authentically, I wasn't fully prepared for the sharing emotional intimacy with somebody, because that's not something I had ever had in my entire life. And, the fear doesn't disappear when you come out. The old wiring, your childhood wounds, the slurs, the labels, all that stuff, the decades of suppression in some cases, they're still there. And you've built these walls around you to keep yourself safe. And when you feel someone getting close, even though now I'm like, and it's a lot easier now, like, but there's still that element of like, I need to protect myself. So when you feel someone gets too close, you kind of pull away, and it's subconsciously at first, and you've got to be aware of it. So then you can go, well, no, this is okay. And, to have someone freely show you affection might cause you to freeze. Like, it took me a lot to get used to that, because again, that's not anything that I've ever had that was freely given or unconditionally given. Now, I don't mean that it's, forced upon you or anything like that, but it's like, you're supposed to hold my hand when we're out, or you're supposed to do this, or this is what a loving partner does. And even though a lot of it was unspoken, those were the kind of conditional things you're working through. And even when someone expresses like, I love you, and you feel like you're going to crawl out of your skin, and then you start to question yourself like, am I still broken? Am I defective? Why can't I receive this? Why can't I take this? And why can't I just receive love like a normal human? And it's like, I remember, even with Sharon's aunties talking about them, and they, you know, would give me the world's greatest hugs and then tell you that, they love me. And, it took a long time for that to not just settle on the superficial level, go, love you too. Like, when Sharon finishes all of her calls with, family, she or her best friends, she will always end the call with love you, or I love you, or and it took a lot, because that is not the language that I was raised in. Even with partners, that is not what was said. And I know I've talked on here before, like, I can't remember the last time like my mother physically said I love you. I don't know if ever. I don't know. But I can't remember it. So it's definitely been a lot of years. And when you go, like for me, 46 years of that, and you go to this other world where you're open to it, but it still is a lot when someone's offering that to you and you're like, oh, okay. You don't want to be like weird, but it takes a bit to take that in and to listen and, absorb that. But I think, I was doing some research the other day and some reading on this, and the concept as I read it was, your nervous system needs time to catch up. So even though I am living my truth and I'm being who I'm meant to be, my brain and my wiring is still catching up to that. And, for my entire life, it wasn't safe to be authentically me. And being seen wasn't safe. And feeling wasn't safe. Like, if I expressed emotion or expressed a feeling, it was challenged. So now when I'm like opening myself up to these things, it can feel like your nervous system is going, whoa, what the hell is this? We don't do vulnerability. We keep everyone out here at arm's length. That's it. That's where everybody stays. And we like it that way. And that's trauma. So we hear about trauma a lot, and sometimes it's overused and misused, but that's trauma. That's, your body sees that, and your brain and your wiring system, your emotional system sees that as a wound. It's got to protect it. Like, if you've got a sore arm, instinctively you hold that arm up because you want to protect it. So this is your body protecting you. It's putting that armor back up and going, "Mom, I'm not letting that in there because this didn't turn out so good for us last time." And the answer isn't to feel less than or shame, or that you're doing it wrong, or I'm broken, or I'm incapable of feeling love. It's to just do it in little bits, just to move slowly through it, to breathe, to stay, to just accept the love little by little until your system catches up and goes, oh, okay, this is cool. Nothing bad happened here. And the analogy I thought of when I was thinking through this is like you see those dogs and that have been beaten and they flinch at every little thing. That's kind of what we're like. We're like that. And then, the person who comes along to take care of the dog just, gives it a little bit more food, and the dog comes closer, and then it builds that trust. So we've got to kind of build that trust within ourselves to remind ourselves it's okay. And this is good now. Everything's different, and give ourselves grace for that part of the journey in that. And the second part of this, though, is, and this is the part that gets me every time when I sit and really think on it, is that this version of me, so my authentic version, who I am now and continue to evolve. It's not like I came out and that's it, the work's done. But this version, the real version of me, I'm still figuring out getting to know her as well. Like, and when you enter a relationship, and like I said, I talk about relationships as friendships and family, anything. So when I enter a relationship now, it's not just about trusting the other person, it's about trusting me to keep showing up authentically and honestly, to be able to speak my truth and to ask what I need instead of shape shifting to fit in and to be comfortable. And while I'm figuring out how to love me, I'm also teaching them how to love me and what I need. And it starts with me accepting and loving myself, which it all starts there. And that's messy parts and all. And it was a very new experience for me with Sharon to be able to have someone ask me what I need and to express what I need and not sort of flinch away or diminish it, or, even simple, like instead of like a simple conversation about, what do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want? Like, we laugh about that. That's, the back and forth. But, or, do you want to go here? Well, I don't know. Do you want to go here? Like, I would always preference what she wanted, because subconsciously it's like, well, if we do what she wants or have what she wants, then she'll be happy and everything will be good. So being able to communicate what I need, and that's okay for me to have a need and to express it, is still mind-blowing for me, and it's still a challenge. It's something that I still work on to navigate my way through. And, you know, it's a process, and like I said, I didn't just come out and everything was all wonderful. Like, I'm evolving and continuing to evolve. And now Sharon and I are evolving together as who we are as a couple, and the way we work and what we need and what works for each of us as we're both growing into our identities. And like, this version of love is way scarier than any other version I've ever known, because it's like real. I can feel the magnitude of it rather than just something in name only. I don't know if that makes sense. But there's no mask, no performance, no pretense. Like, this is just this amazing space that we have. And to experience it, it means I need to be present. So I need to stay and be present. I need to feel it. I need to be seen. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And I need to allow that love in. And that comes, again, not just romantic. I'm talking about the love I give myself, love from family, friends, those sort of things. Like, even when I'm awkward as fuck, which is regular, even when I don't know what the hell I'm doing, which is regularly, and even when my inner child is like, I don't deserve this, I don't need this, that's when I need to, you know, take myself back to me and go, you do deserve this. It's okay. And give it to myself first before I can seek it externally and be able to accept it externally. And that's been the big thing, I guess. And, it's so worth it. Like, all the work, all the fumbling, all of the mind games in my own head, and like the figuring stuff out, like, it's so worth it. Like, every wobble, every deep breath, can we talk about something that's hard? And we don't even need to preface it with that now. We just have a conversation and it will be elbows deep in it. You're like, well, this is a hard conversation, but we're in it, because it just happens naturally now. Because when it's real, love is a space for healing, not hiding. Put that on your bookmarks, on your whiteboard. And everything has to start here with the self, with me. And like, if I don't have that space within me for me, then no one else can get through, because the walls are up protecting that trauma. I can't accept it until I accept it from myself first. And it's so much easier to accept it from other people. Now, I sound like that I've got all this figured out, and I do not. I have to still have long, hard conversations with myself about it's okay. I get what you're doing. I know that you're a little bit twitchy and scared, or this was unsettling, but we've just got to stay the course with it. Like, this is good. It's okay. You're okay. They're okay. Everyone's okay. And now, when one of Sharon's aunties hugs me and says, I love you so much, like, I feel that in my bones. I feel it in my bones. And because I trust them and I know that they are sincere and genuine, and, that's real feeling in those words, more so than any other time in my life. But that's because I feel I'm deserving of that. Like, why wouldn't they? I'm fucking awesome. Like, but now I know, it's like, yeah, I deserve that. I need that. I'm worthwhile of that. That's taken a lot of work. That's still a work in progress. So, I'm talking about this episode about when you're learning to relationship for the first time, but you're learning to relationship with ourselves, our whole self. So have a relationship with ourselves and then external. Like, I see you because we're all out here in this messy middle trying to navigate that. We're all at different points on our journey, but we're all sort of rowing the boat in the same direction. And this is maybe a reminder for me as much as it's a reminder to you if you need this, but you are not late. Sometimes the term late bloomer can do us a disservice, because there's connotations with being late bloomers and the connotations around the word late. But I think we wind up where we're meant to be when we're meant to be there. And as I've said before, like, if Sharon and I had met 20 years ago, we would have fucked this up because we weren't ready for this. I hadn't done all the work. She hadn't done all the work. Like, there's no way. And wherever you are on your journey, you are not broken. You're just learning how to be loved without abandoning yourself. And that's the big thing. That's the big piece of work. And it's the most radical, brave, and badass thing that you can do is to, learn how to be loved by yourself and not give away yourself in the process. And that's amazing. And you're on this journey, stay the course. And I think it's awesome. Anywho, I think that's where I'll put a pin in it this week. Look, if any of this resonated with you, I would love to hear your story. Reach out, send me a DM, send me an email, leave a comment, share the episode with someone who you think could get some value out of this. And, I'm really interested from you guys, like, what's been the hardest or best part of learning to relationship as your authentic self, whether it be with yourself or with others. For me, it was learning to accept love as genuine and understanding I was worth it. It's been an interesting and ongoing piece of my journey. So I'd love to hear from you. Also, I would love to have some more guests. I know I'm working hard to get a couple lined up. An amazing author and a few other people that I'm working on. But I'd love to hear your story. Please reach out. I would love to have you come on the podcast. Let's just have a chat. Like, there's pretty free flowing. If you've listened to it for a while, you'll know it's just having a conversation. You don't have to be stressed about it. I make it fun. I would love to hear from you. And please don't forget to subscribe. Leave me a review. That super helps with the algorithm, because I don't know, some things just aren't going out as far as they were. And, we all need each other. So, thank you for being part of my journey. And, until next week, keep showing up as you, keep being brave, and just know that you're worth it and that you deserve all the good things. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next one.